When you start assembling your coffin, you're going to need a table or some other flat surface about 2 meters long to set things up on. It's quite convenient to have the parts behind you or close to you. If you haven't got a table, you can do this on the floor. So it doesn't really matter where you set up to do. First thing to do is take these pieces, they're the posts, and assemble them. They just sit together like so. Put them on the table, about that far apart, and then pick up the base and lay the base across them like that. The base should be placed so that it's pretty much over the support of the table. Okay, the other thing before we actually start assembling, it's worth taking the Allen key and just screwing the screws out slightly so they're slightly proud of the edge. There we go. Okay, first part that we're going to actually match up is the sides. Pick up a side. The side with the slots on it is the inside of the coffin, and that obviously goes round the bend, and you've got to also identify the holes which go at the bottom. We're actually assembling the coffin upside down, so these holes, so this is the bottom against the table for what we're doing now. If we roughly offer that side up to the base, and you'll notice that we've screwed our screws out a bit so that you can line them up there, pick one at the end, and start screwing it in. Once the screw's entered, that's probably as far as we need to go at the moment. I always prefer to start on the long side because it's a little bit more stable. Now, you notice here that the side is sitting lower than the hole, so we just use the Allen key and lift it up until it pops in, and then we can screw it up as normal. I didn't screw the end one tight, and that's because we've got to put in that case, the foot of the coffin and slide that in between the sides. But these ones along the side of the coffin, I'm able to fully tighten. Doesn't have to be over tight, all you have to do is get it up and touching. We actually did a load test on these cams and loaded to 65 kilos. I was unable to break them. Now, to bend this along here, I find the best way to do it is to bring it in and use your puku to stabilise it while you enter the screw. And same as the other end, we just enter it, don't fully tighten it, and this one can be fully tightened. Try not to over tighten these screws. If you put too much pressure on them, they will tend to strip out of the wood and you'll lose the strength. If you have a quick look at this one, you notice that the MDF is just starting to separate. That is as far as you would ever want to go in tightening. Okay, so we've got this one in position. We'll move on to the one from the other side. Lining up the slots to the corner as we did last time. Starting at one end, popping the protruding screw into the hole and tightening. Same in the middle, we can either lift it up with our finger. I find it just as easy to pop it up like that, and we can tighten this one up fully. A quick word of warning. Don't try reversing the Allen key and using it that way around. First of all, there's no ball on this end, so it won't enter properly. And second of all, you've got far too much leverage. You'll tend to over tighten it. Okay, same system at this end. Just pull it around until it enters. And do the screw off a bit. Now at this point we've got both sides in place. From here to here, these ones are fully tightened, the end ones are still loose. Next thing we do is put the head on. And as you can see, we've got 2 holes in the head which match to these cams here, and it's just a case of putting them in until they enter like so. Here we go. If the bottoms of the sides have come together a bit, you might find that the end looks too long, and in that case you may want to actually enter it at the top and slide it down, which will push the sides out of the way. Okay, as we tighten these up, we want to get them so it's almost touching at both ends. And then we can come back to this one on the sides and fully tighten that. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to go back in front of the camera to do this. And we then fully tighten this one. So that corner is now fully assembled. We do the same thing over here. So this end is now fully tight. Go back to the foot. Okay, again look for the holes in the top, and you're able to enter, as I was saying before, at the top and slide that down, which will move the sides out of the way if they've tended to come inwards with it. And again, the same as the head, you get the top entered and tight, sorry, entered and ready, almost touching. And then we can tighten the sides up. And tighten the ends. And at this stage, the bottom of our coffin is fully assembled. From here, very carefully, slide it over a bit, and we're going to roll the coffin over so that it's then upright. If you wish to remove the posts before you put the ends on, that's not a bad idea. So get those out of the way at this point, or you can do what I've done here and just roll the coffin off the posts. Just be a bit gentle with it at this stage, because the only thing that's stopping these sides from flopping in and out is the attachment at the bottom, and the next thing we do is to attach it at the top. Exactly the same process. And it should just line up straight into the hole like that. It's just a case of sliding it back down again so that you can get into the end of it and then screw it up. This one for some reason doesn't seem to want to enter the hole nearly as nicely as the others. And the trick would be just to screw the screw out as far as you can, give it a bit of movement. There it goes. And there it goes there, it's in. You're only looking for about 1/4 of a millimetre of variation there to achieve that. Back to the other end. Okay, so now we have the base of our coffin fully assembled. Okay, the next thing we fit is the hard pillow. Now, the hard pillow comes in three pieces, and they're all pre-drilled. One of them, however, has a countersink on it, and that one is at the top. So if we put them together, it goes in that way round. You'll have to fish the screws out from the screw bag, and the ones you're looking for are the long silver ones. All the other screws that are in there are for the handles. And this is where we need your Phillips screwdriver. So we'll go a fair way in, and then that should, and you can see there's a little countersink on the bottom. There we go, that's entered. And same with the other one. It's a little bit of a fiddle getting it through, but there we go, we found it there. And same as everything else, don't over tighten it. Just square them up a little bit. There are clearance holes in the screws, so they won't always sit dead square anyway. So just screw those down, and that's that. Okay, now we can look at the plastic lining, which comes like so, all rolled up. We can unroll that. Plastic linings are a requirement, and they're there to catch any leakage, and they just roll up in the bottom like this. So it goes a fair way up the sides. The main thing about the plastic lining is when we're laying it out is to make it reasonably even and get any wrinkles out of the bottom. And I say this because if you've got wrinkles in your plastic lining and then you put another lining on top of it, the wrinkles will show through. Okay, this is your stapler, which I've already taken out of the packet that it comes in. We've given you some extra staples, the staples in the box, which I'm using at the moment. I loaded them up previously, and I find it's easy to actually staple the opposite side to the side that you're on. As you can see, I've got a lot more on this side than that side. It doesn't matter, we're not actually looking to fill it up with liquid, we're just looking for it to contain it. So that's the plastic lining in. Nice and flat, no wrinkles to speak of. A little bit full here, but that's not going to matter. Yep. Okay, we're now going to put the handles on. So you'll need the handles, the packet of screws, and your screwdriver. Now, as soon as that screw comes and starts to tighten, when the handle touches the coffin, that is tight enough. You do not want to put any tension, any excessive tension on these screws. Because what that'll do, it's only a very thin piece of MDF. So if you over tension the screws, you can strip out the thread and the timber. In fact, I'm going to back that off a little bit, so it's sitting a bit high. So you can, if you don't actually hit a hole, it's not too much of a problem. But if you over tighten the screws, they can strip out the timber, and you can then have a problem when the coffin is loaded and the weight is on them, and that's not a good look. The handles are rated at 100 kilos each. I've actually destruction tested these handles. They actually break at somewhere over 200 kilos, just over 200 kilos. So in total they're more than adequate to carry the weight that they're designed for. Okay, one handle on. You'll notice that I'm using copper handles here, which is actually a line that we're moving out of, but they're normally available in silver and gold, and those are the two colours that we'll be retaining in the longer term. Okay, our next job is to put the linings in. We offer three types of lining: the calico lining, unbleached calico lining, which is our cheapest offering, bleached calico, which is a little bit more expensive than the unbleached, and the satin, which is more expensive again. Doesn't matter which one you use, it's purely a personal choice. That one's $90 and that's $130, I think that's $95. So purely your choice as to which lining you use. Okay, first thing we do when we're putting linings in, we're going to put the unbleached calico lining in here, is to put the bottom in. A bottom lining it's probably, one thing I should mention, which we're not going to do here, these linings probably need to be ironed properly before they're put in. As you can see, the fold marks in them, and it makes it look a lot nicer if you can get those out before you put them in the coffin. So putting the bottom lining in is almost identical to doing the plastic lining. We spread it out in the bottom of the coffin and try and get it sort of even. Pull out any stray bits of cotton that's sometimes attached to it. The side lining will come right down to the corner, so it doesn't matter how far up the side the bottom lining goes, as long as it does actually go up the side. And a little bit of extra time spent just getting it sitting nicely is well worth it in the long run. Okay, so it's sort of sitting there now. It's reasonable. This one's a little bit neat in the corner, but it'll be all right. So, again, same thing. Pick a position and start. Okay, so now we come to doing the side lining, and as you can see, it's quite a long piece of material. First thing to do is stretch it out so you can see what you're doing and get it the right way around. Now, if you have a look at it, you'll see that there's a strip of ribbon on one side, and that's to go over the top edge of the coffin. So if you're having a viewing, it hides this bare edge and sits outside, and then we just fold that in when we close the coffin. Because it's a single piece of material, there will be a join. That's inevitable, and best place to put the join is down at the bottom corner somewhere. It doesn't matter whether you go clockwise or anti-clockwise around the coffin to put it in. I prefer to do it this way around, probably because I'm right-handed. But I prefer to just start and put the lining out so it's more or less in position, so that you know what you're dealing with. We're actually using an unbleached calico lining for this demonstration, but the procedure is exactly the same with the bleached and satin. Okay, so our join's going to be in this corner, and we want this piece to go in last. Okay, so we should actually start from here. We're going to fold that one out of the way, go all the way around, secure this one, and then come back and close it, because that's got the nice straight edge and that'll fold down in that corner. Where we're stapling is just under, we get the ribbon sitting about there, and the first staple should always go into the side. You just lift up the little flap at the bottom and then attach it. As you're doing this bit around the middle, just make sure the lining doesn't wrap over so that you get a reasonably straight line. When you come to the corner here, the lining is going to tend to cut the corner and want to fall back inside. So if you just feel the slots, and you want a staple pretty close to where the slots finish to establish the corner. Okay, now we've got down to this corner, you'll remember that this was the piece that we started with, which we know fits nicely into that corner that we threw out of the way. And this one goes around the corner. Try and make sure that that one's pretty even, because the level of the satin will determine where the other side goes. Okay, so notch that one into place. Put another staple under here. Not that you're going to see this particularly. And then pull this one back around the corner. There we go. And now we can stabilise. Worth checking that the satin lines up on either side, because it looks a bit untidy if you get them at different heights. The actual height is not so critical, it's just a case of getting them the same. Okay, so now we have our lining installed. There is, apart from this corner, there's always a little bit of extra material in the corner, and that can just be folded in, or it's basically once somebody's inside this, you don't really see this, so it's not a problem. So that's your lining. Okay, the other things we offer to decorate the coffin is a top sheet. Some people like them, some people don't like them. Often people will use a blanket or something that's particularly attached to the person, but it just, as you can see, it's about there, designed to go up to chest height and cover the person inside. Purely optional. It's not a requirement in any shape or form. It's just, if you happen to like it, then we supply it. The other option that we have is the soft pillow, and that just sits on there like that. Again, it has no functional requirement, but some people like to think of their loved one with something under the head. Okay, when the time comes to close the coffin, viewings are over. All we do is pick up the side of the side cover and just fold it in. So as you can see, that's now exposing the raw edge of the sides, which is what we were trying to cover up before. Okay, you pick your lid up, and if you have a look on the bottom there, you'll see there's a groove, and that will align with the sides. So it's a case of putting the coffin and give it a wriggle round so that it slots in the groove, and that's pretty good. And then we just need to put the lid screws in. Lid screws will come in a little packet like this. Okay, now each screw has a plate, like so. So feed the screw through the plate, and if you have a look inside there, you can see the hole that's in the top of the side, and just screw it down. Quite simply. They're long screws, they take a while to go down. Again, there's no need for the lid screws to be particularly tight. They're only securing the lid, and I haven't had anybody escape yet. There we go. So we tighten it down so that the plate is held just by friction. It's not necessary to pin it, even though there are some pinholes in the plate, and they sometimes stick together like that. Okay, a lot of families choose to decorate their caskets, and personally I think that's an excellent idea, particularly when children are involved. Children can tend to get left out of the organisation a little bit, and it's very beneficial to their grieving process to be involved in this. But this is the finished product, and thank you for watching.